Greetings, fellow mathematicians! We're going to take a look at a straightforward product rule question that leads to a common error. Now, before we start calculating any derivatives, let's analyze this problem and see where we would be applying the product rule. And that's pretty obvious here. We have x times e to the x. We're going to apply the product rule when we differentiate that term, differentiating x times e to the x. All right, so let's write that down. That'll just guide us through our work. Now, where's the common error here? Well, it's going to be due to that minus or subtraction sign. That's pretty much the source of almost all errors that are made in a simple product rule question. Now, why would that minus or subtraction sign lead to a common error? Well, let's think about the formula for the product rule. You get several terms. You get a sum of two terms there, and that minus or subtraction sign, that's going to distribute to everything after when you apply the product rule there. Now, the way we usually fix those sign errors is with the greatest tip in the entire calculus sequence, use parentheses. So let's go ahead and put them in right from the beginning. You can put a set of parentheses or brackets around the term on which you're applying the product rule. All right, now one part of this function is really easy to differentiate. That's the derivative of the first term, x squared, which will just be 2x. So let's write down our partial answer. We might write this as y prime. Differentiate x squared, you'll get 2x. We're going to write the minus, and I'm going to carry down the parentheses. And everything that goes after those parentheses, that'll be where we apply the product rule. Now, we're intending this to be a basic example on the product rule where students are just getting comfortable applying it. So let's go ahead and still apply divide and conquer. If you're not familiar with divide and conquer, go ahead and check out the video I have linked down below in the description where we go through that tip, divide and conquer, for the product rule. Now here, we're just going to identify the pieces when we calculate the derivative of x times e to the x. All right, let's identify the function f of x. So that'll be x, and then g of x, that'll be e to the x. And again, we're identifying the pieces here from the product, one function f times another function g. Calculate your derivatives. You'll get f prime of x equals 1, and the derivative g prime of x, that's e to the x. And now we just put the pieces together. So it's good to always take a complicated problem, break it down to some simpler ones, and what we're doing right now is a simple calculation with the product rule. So let's combine our pieces here to find that derivative, and then we'll just basically plug it back in here in parentheses. So put your pieces together, f prime times g, 1 times e to the x, and then we add to that f times g prime. And that is our derivative. Now we just need to plug that in here. Again, that was from applying the product rule, and all that work is going to go in the parentheses here. So let's put that in. We'll write this as e to the x, and then plus x e to the x, and then close your parentheses. And that's it. The common error that I usually find most students make, they'll have the minus here, they'll have these two terms, but they'll forget that they want to use a set of parentheses. So the common error here, just so you see it, we're going to write it down. You have the first term, 2x. You have the minus from the original function. And then the terms from applying the product rule are just carried down, e to the x plus x times e to the x. All right, and do you see the error here? Notice this minus will distribute inside there and make that term negative, whereas the common error here has a plus. So just make sure you're aware of that. especially when you're combining the product rule with some subtractions. Parentheses will always fix that. All right, now from here, we can simplify this. You can go ahead and distribute that minus if you want, but you can also simplify here inside the parentheses or brackets by factoring out e to the x. And it's nice, where possible, to factor your derivative to make some of the other calculations and problems that you're getting to a little bit easier. So let's just write this as 2x minus, and I'm going to factor e to the x out from here. So if you want, you can keep it with square brackets. And put your factor of e to the x on the outside like that. Let's just go ahead and change the square brackets to a normal set of parentheses. That's probably more standard notation. And then we'll switch the order of the 1 and the x since we're adding. And we'll write this derivative as 2x minus x plus 1 times e to the x. And there we go. This problem is not necessarily hard, but there's a common error here with that combination of subtraction with the product rule. Now, I always like to give a question like this in my Calculus 1 course, not to trick students, but to really get them to think about solving more complicated problems and combining differentiation rules together. Now here, this was only one differentiation rule. We just used the product rule, but being able to look at this problem and see where the errors might occur and then how to fix them, do your calculation off to the side, and also use parentheses. That'll be a good way to build those skills now for the simple problems before you get to the ones that are a lot harder, where we start combining product rule with the quotient rule and the chain rule. All right, so there we go. This is our derivative, y prime. And once you get the hang of where the errors occur with the minus and how to fix them using parentheses, you'll be able to get through problems like this, no problem. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, support the channel, like and subscribe.